At the swearing-in ceremony of the new U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, President Trump responded to a question by a reporter.
Did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. It's not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did you
I just said I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now.
Wow. How was that revelation received in Israel? Here to tell us, Chris Mitchell with CBN. He's the Middle East Bureau Chief in Jerusalem. Chris, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Great to be with you, Tony.
Before we jump into this topic, you are at the closing evening event at the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, which has been going on all week. How has that been?
Well, it's a great event, Tony, and I know you've been here at times, and our good friend Michelle Bachmann is one of the co-founders. This is the 9th annual Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast. 40 nations are represented here tonight, where they have come to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, to stand with Israel, and just a few minutes ago, they were praying for Africa. So it's really a wonderful event that just brings people together, and it's recognized by many official leaders here in Israel.
Now, is at the David Citadel, or which hotel are you at?
Well, this is the Waldorf Astoria. This is where it usually is held here, and it's a beautiful place, and quite an event, very moving event. Earlier today, U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee gave an address, and he talked about the importance of standing with Israel and important standing with the biblical heartland of Israel, Judea and Samaria.
Well, I can't think of a more timely event where people coming together from around the globe to pray for Israel than what is unfolding right now, and some of that we're going to talk about. Number one, the president admitting yesterday that he asked Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to hold off on striking Iran's nuclear facilities. How's that message been received there in Israel?
Well, last week a lot of people were saying that this phone call had taken place and that it was a very tense exchange, and apparently that phone call did take place when the president said so. I think people over here, Tony, are concerned. They're concerned that the deal that may be struck won't go far enough. Now, the president did say in his remarks that, if they have to go into a lab and blow it up, they would go ahead and do that. Some people are concerned that it will allow Iran to continue to enrich uranium, which really they only need for a nuclear weapon. And the concern here as well is that these negotiations will drag out like the Iranians may want to do while they continue pursuing a nuclear weapon. The other concern, Tony, is that ideologically and even in the theology, that Iranians are unwilling to give up their nuclear ambitions. They want to use that to have sort of this nuclear umbrella over the Middle East. They've lost much of their proxies that they've built up for years. They've lost Hamas and Hezbollah, even the Houthis, as sort of legitimate threats against Israel. The only one they have left is a nuclear arsenal or weapons, and so that's the real concern. People would be glad if these negotiations do eliminate Iranian enrichment facilities, but the concern is that it may not go far enough, and that's, I think, where the frustration, I would say, in the Prime Minister's office, perhaps, is that they want to go ahead, if this negotiation is not good enough, to strike Iran militarily, and they want to have that military card, I believe, Tony.
Chris, we've talked about this a lot. This is something that I discuss a lot on the program, about this window in which Iran may move forward with enriching the uranium, being able to deliver a nuclear device, and then Israel having weakened Iran's air defenses, that window could be closing. Now, Obviously, we don't have access to all of the conversations that are taking place or the intelligence, but just reading the body language and the movements, we've seen a uptick in the number of visits that Israeli high officials have been making to the U.S., to Washington, D.C., to meet with the White House, supposedly to deliver intel, I think trying to convince the White House that now is the time to move. So I would think that there is a lot of pressure, I think, on Netanyahu to do something and do something soon.
I think so, too. And I remember, Tony, that Prime Minister Netanyahu has been warning about a nuclear Iran for decades. Famously, he's been at the UN and sometimes bringing these crude cartoons like a bomb that just showing how close Iran is to a nuclear weapon. So right now, it seemed after the election and after the inauguration of President Trump, there was a sense here in Israel that maybe this is the time and the opportunity, along with the United States, to go ahead and just destroy Iran's nuclear facilities. And as you said, the window seems to be closing. The air defenses of Iran had been destroyed to a large degree last year in attacks both in April and October. And yet, right now, the estimates that Iran could have enough enriched uranium to military grade, and that could only take a matter of days or a few weeks, enough to build maybe a number, maybe as far as 10 nuclear bombs. Now, still, they have to make sure they miniaturize it and put it on a ballistic missile. Some people say that could take a year. But still, it's very, very close for Iran to getting what they have had the ambition for many, many years to get a nuclear weapon.
All right, Chris, we're up against a break here in just a minute. We're going to have to go to a break. But when we come back, I want to talk about news today, the White House announcing that Israel had signed off on a ceasefire proposal that the U.S. has presented to Hamas. Now, Hamas has not yet agreed to these terms, but this comes as the pressure by Israel, the IDF, on Hamas as they move further and deeper into Gaza. So I want to talk about that, as well as the Israeli government doing something that they've been hesitant to do, and that is announcing 22 new communities in Judea and Samaria, which is quite significant. So when we come back, we'll talk about those two things. Chris, thanks for sticking around. So let's go to this proposed ceasefire. I mean, we've heard this before. Israeli officials have apparently signed off on this agreement that Witkoff has been working on. Hamas not yet responding. What do you say?
Well, it looks like there may be a 45 or 60-day ceasefire. We don't know all the details right now, and maybe as many as 10 live hostages released, and whether or not Hamas accepts it or not. But it seems to be there may be the same sticking points that have been for many months. Israel is willing to have a temporary ceasefire, but it doesn't want to have a permanent ceasefire, which is something Hamas has been asking for from the very beginning, and a withdrawal of all the IDF troops. And as you say, the context that's going on right now is Israel is into its second week of what they call Gideon's chariots, where they're not only just coming in special operations, but they're coming to control and as much as 75% of the Gaza Strip in the next 2 months. Right now, they control about 40% of the land. And Hamas is really reeling right now, Tony. Much of their leadership has been eliminated. And there's a humanitarian aid drive right now, sponsored by the United States, protected by Israel, where many of the people of Gaza can come and get humanitarian aid separate from Hamas. And what this is doing is weakening their control over the population. So the combination of the humanitarian aid and the military campaign right now and the elimination of much of Hamas's leadership is really putting a lot of pressure on Hamas. Maybe they'll accept this deal that has been approved by the United States and Israel, but remains to be seen if they're willing to have this temporary ceasefire and give back maybe at least half of the alive hostages.
Chris, you're in a very unique position, being there in Jerusalem. You know what's happening there on the ground in Israel, but you also are frequently back in the United States, and you have your ear to the ground internationally. My take on this is that this is really the last chance for Israel to to eliminate Hamas. This has been going on for 18 months. We've been in and out, off and on again. And I think every time the criticism of Israel, like the humanitarian aspects of this, only intensifies. I don't think there's another bite at the apple left.
Yeah, we've been talking about this ourselves over here, Tony. Somebody said that what would happen if the U.S. Army stopped on the Rhine River and had a ceasefire with Nazi Germany. That is comparable, but right now you have to add the hostages, which is quite an emotional topic, and how many Israelis want to make sure that we just stop the war and get all the hostages. But right now it seems like Israel really has an opportunity to finally defeat Hamas. They have a strategy with this Gideon's chariot that seems to be working very well, and Hamas seems to be getting more and more pressure, not only geographically and squeezed into tighter areas, but also the elimination of many of its infrastructure and leaders. So the sense by some, I would say some over here, Tony, is that Israel needs to finish the job and win the war. It's so important not only for the people of Israel to have a safe place living beside the Gaza Strip, but also internationally, that anything less than a win would give what some people call a tailwind to radical Islam around the world.
Switching gears in a related topic, in the wake of October the 7th, there's a greater awareness of the threats, the security vulnerability that Israel has. And I think it was today or late yesterday, the defense minister, Israel Katz, announcing that there was going to be new Jewish communities established in Judea and Samaria. I mean, this is when we were with you over in Israel just a few weeks ago. We were in Judea and Samaria, and there is an effort there to try to have a stronger presence of the Jewish community to hold back the terrorist activity. This has got to be good news to those living in Judea and Samaria.
Very good news for them. And Israel Katz also said that it was sort of an anchor into the historical land of the Jewish people from millennia. And some of these communities, Tony, were actually given back in 2005. That was the Gaza disengagement that came out of 9,000 Jewish people out of Gaza, and also some communities in northern Samaria. And now this is a really historic reversal of what happened back 20 years ago, and also really putting deeper roots into the biblical heartland, Judea and Samaria. The world calls the West Bank, but if you look back millennia, that's really a misnomer. This is the Jewish land of the patriarchs and the prophets, and our Bible comes from this land. And so they're doing something that's really historic, and announcing these 22 communities that can be established, and sometimes some next to the Jordan border, and also others in around Judea and Samaria.
So this is both a security issue as well as an identity issue. This is taking back the land that, as you pointed out, historically has been theirs. I mean, this is where the term Jew came from, Judea. This is it's significant on multiple fronts. We've got about 30 seconds left. Any pushback to this announcement?
Not as much as you would expect, Tony. I don't think so. And as we're here at the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, I think it's a great reminder for people listening to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, to pray for the leaders, the wisdom for the leaders here in Israel, and also pray for the White House and President Trump, that these are making historic decisions, really, with terms of Iran, Gaza, the Judea and Samaria. Really a time to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem and for leaders, as Paul has encouraged us to do.
Well, Chris, every time we talk to you, we get our prayer homework. So thanks so much for joining us. Chris, always great to see you.